What's up? What's up? All right, let's get into waiver wire action. Our last, well, it's not the last waiver wire, but for a lot of us, it's our
Yeah.
last waiver wire for the year. Hopefully, you'll be able to make it into the playoffs and you don't have to worry about it. Right? You got a couple more waiver wires to go, but this is an important one. We're going into week 14. A lot of playoff hopes on the line. Zach and I are in a league together where anything can happen this week,
Yeah.
where 4 or 5 teams, or maybe even more, 6 teams are vying for the last like 4 spots, in our league. So like anything can happen this week. I'm going up against Lawrence, Lord Don't Lose, on Twitter and
Yeah.
Instagram, and you know his team is pretty good.
Yeah.
I am so anything can happen. I'm hoping that I'm in the 4 spot right now, but I can easily drop all the way to 8. If depending on how things shake out.
I don't know. I like your team. I think it's really good. At least your core: Christian McCaffrey, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Marquise Brown, Keenan Allen, Joe Burrow. You should be set there. I'm not worried about your team. I think you're gonna be fine. But
I hope so. You
just,
never
just a
know.
glimpse into what the experts team looks like. You know what I'm saying?
Well, listen, man. I know that looking at your team, and then all the players that you don't that aren't available for you this week, and then looking at my team, I can understand why you think that.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna be scraping to get by. The good thing is DeAndre Swift. He's giving me a little hope. I was in bad shape a couple weeks ago at running back. And then Brian Robinson came on too. And DeAndre Swift
yeah,
is looking like normal. So not that bad. And I have Devontae
no.
Adams, and he has been carrying my ass. So, it's
If
fine.
you have running back issues and you have Brian Robinson and now you have DeAndre Swift like making his way back, like I would be ecstatic. You know what I mean?
Oh my
Like
God. It's been it's been a big help. That's the only thing keeping me alive at this point.
let's talk about this game last night, man.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of serious disappointments, right? And the
Yeah.
first one being Alvin Kamara. Straight up losing people leagues, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
his usage is insane to me. 3 targets, 12 carries. His snap count went down in 4 straight games, and he was sharing the load with Mark Ingram in this game. Like, why?
With Andy
59% of
Dalton at
snaps.
quarterback.
I
Like
know.
it makes no sense.
Andy
I,
Dalton should be checking it down all day to him.
Right, and that's what you expect. I mean, Andy Dalton, he looked like he was slinging it. I remember in yesteryear, it feels like forever ago, that he was actually, making this offense fantasy relevant. Chris Olave, those were the days for him too. He was having some good games. He was able to string them together. But recently, it's just been terrible on offense for the Saints.
It could have been way better if Chris Olave caught that 3rd and 8 or 9 or whatever it was that turned from a touchdown. They would have been at
Yeah,
the 10-yard line with a first down, but Chris Olave just right off his hands. He was he caught he was going to catch that ball, hit him in the hands, and then he looked down before he caught it to see if he was going to step out of bounds.
yeah,
And I feel like that was a huge difference maker in terms of fantasy points right there. Could have
yeah,
been Alvin Kamara there. Could have been Chris Olave there. There's a lot of potentials that could. Rashid Shaheed. You know what I'm
yeah. What's
saying?
that about?
Like,
Leading the
he's
team
coming.
in
He's
receiving. That's
coming on
just
a little
crazy.
bit. Undrafted rookie. Interesting dynasty ad. He's been coming on a little bit, so just I wouldn't add him in redraft, but dynasty, like he's probably available in waivers. Um, but yeah, man, like Alvin Kamara, dude, like I had him as my RB 17 coming into this week,
Right,
but he finished as the RB 42, and
and
I'm worried about Kamara, like even long term, even in dynasty, like
yeah.
he's not looking effective right now.
No. And I don't want to blame it all completely on Kamara. We know the talent he is. Like when you get 12 carries and 3 targets, I mean, I expect a little bit more than 5 points, 20 yards on the ground, from Kamara because, that's just what we've come to expect from him. But I can't blame it completely on him. This offense is terrible. He's working with a backup quarterback, and it looked like, they're able to put lipstick on the pig for a little bit with Andy Dalton, that quarterback. That's, fallen off, and the lips have gone chapped. This offense sucks. I think I'm not as worried about Kamara, for next season as I would be maybe, like the rest of this season. The rest of this season looks like it's going to be tough. I mean, he has better matchups coming up. He's had some tough matchups these past few weeks, but he's on bye now, and he's not going to help you, obviously, get into the playoffs. And honestly, maybe him being on bye is a good thing. And now you don't have to worry about should I start him or not this week because he's let you down these past few weeks. And I'm not sure what the ceiling is anymore. I remember earlier in the season, I said this offense didn't look like it was going to be good for Alvin Kamara. And then he ripped off 3 top 12 or right around there. You know, he was an RB1 for like 4 weeks and then he just went back doing nothing. So I don't understand what that's about. Maybe if he goes first quarter of the season, he wasn't good. Then the second quarter, he was. Third quarter, he wasn't. And now fourth quarter, he is. Like, I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm not expecting too much from him moving forward. Really disappointing. You drafted him to be the RB1 that he's been the past few years, and he hasn't been that at all.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, like, I'm looking at the schedule, Atlanta, Cleveland, not bad. I would start him as an RB2, but he's not winning leagues right now.
No, he's not winning leagues. No, he's not winning weeks. He's losing weeks. That's what he's doing. I said, like, the usage is just terrible. And like I said, with Andy Dalton, the quarterback, what are you doing not giving him at least 5 or 6 targets in a game? Just out of the backfield. I don't care if it's on a screen or if it's on a little out route or just, a slant. You can line him up at receiver. We've seen Kamara. He can, catch passes. He's the talent that they need, but they're just not using him. I'm not sure what the offense is about. Like I said, the team just sucks. I don't think this is exactly the problem that Dameon Pierce is having. I think Kamara's talented. The offense isn't as bad as the Texans, but it's bad enough that nobody's getting anything done.
What's going on with Mike Evans, dude? 4 catches, 59 yards, only 4 targets. He has 4 straight games of 60 yards or less. What's going on? And no touchdowns. He hasn't scored a touchdown since week 4.
Yeah, that's really confusing. And again, this goes back to the team not being as good. Up until 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the game was 16-3. They hadn't, reached the end zone at all. And then Tom Brady just pulls his clutch gene out and, he goes and runs 2 offensive drives to get them back in the lead, and then they win the game. But Mike Evans, the entire game, Chris Godwin again had 13 targets, which is just ridiculous. He's been on an absolute tear with target share and getting targets, and he's catching them. He's producing too. It was a little bit quieter for Godwin, but that was okay. But Mike Evans, is he in Tom Brady's doghouse? Like, you have to wonder what it is. We've seen him, thrive with Tom Brady at quarterback, and we knew that he was going to be a bit volatile. That's the way he's been throughout his career. He has on days and off days, but recently it's just been bad day after bad day. So I'm not sure what to expect from Mike Evans moving forward. I'm not really comfortable starting him as a wide receiver 1. I'm not really, honestly, not even that comfortable starting him as a wide receiver 2. At this point, I think a flex play would be more appropriate the way that he's produced these past few weeks.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy to say that. And on top of that, he gets San Francisco next week. So, yay.
Tough sledding.
Yeah, not great. Leonard Fournette returned in this game. He saw 16 touches. Rachaad White had 15 touches. It was a 60-40 split in terms of snaps, and Fournette ran 11 more routes than White as well. So Fournette led this backfield in snaps. He ran more routes. So this is far from a Rachaad White takeover. And it makes sense to me because I didn't think White did enough to prove that he deserved to fully take over this backfield. He also lost a fumble in this game, so that doesn't help. Right. I had White ranked over Fournette this week, and it only worked out because he ended up catching that game-winning touchdown. But going forward, these guys will probably be ranked as borderline RB2 options, and I will have Fournette ranked above White. He had both goal line snaps. That last touchdown by White isn't really considered a goal line snap, by the way. That was outside the 5-yard line. And Fournette had a far majority of the 2-minute snaps as well. In PPR leagues, like, they'll both be solid because it looks like Tom Brady just wants to dump it down all game long. But they have San Francisco. They have San Francisco next week, like I said. So I won't be looking to start. I won't be excited to start either, unless I'm in a pickle and I need a PPR flex play. Like, for example, your situation this week, you would gladly start either, wouldn't you?
Yeah, if I had him. But I am combing the waiver wire. Like I said, I've got a long list of guys, and I have no fab, so I'm just hoping I pick up one of them. But with Rachaad White and Leonard Fournette, it looks like the offense is running through them with Tom Brady, and you wouldn't expect to hear that about Tom Brady offense. I mean, these 2 running backs, they're going to be able to get it done for you each week. It's not going to be an incredibly high ceiling, but their floor is comfortable enough, like you said, that they're going to be, I think, a solid flex play. If you need to as an RB2, that would work just fine as well. They're just not going to have upside like other guys. But the way that they're getting targeted, they each had at least 7 targets, and Rachaad White actually edged out Leonard Fournette despite him running more routes last night. He had eight targets, and he scored that touchdown. So if this offense can just get its feet under itself, which it had a really hard time doing last night, but it did actually catch up, it seems like the only weapon in the passing game that's working right now is Chris Godwin. Maybe you could say Cade Otton, but he's been, a situational contributor at best. The running backs, I think, are the most, reliable part of this offense that you can expect to produce for your week in and week out, outside of Tom Brady. But Tom Brady hasn't had a huge ceiling either. He's not throwing many touchdowns. He had his 3rd interception. So I'm okay with these running backs. I don't think you're going to be, stupid if you start one over the other. You can make a case for Leonard Fournette to be starting your lineup over Rachaad White and vice versa. But they'll be able to contribute. They're flex plays, very nice flex plays, low-end RB2s if you need them. But the upside is not very high with these guys. So they're pretty much, just if you have nothing else, you can plug them in and have a pretty solid production from them moving forward. And that's what I expect the rest of the season.
Yeah, especially in PPR. In standard or half point, I will be much less inclined to play either. And if I'm going to play one, I'm probably going to play Fournette if he's going to continue to get the goal line snaps.
Right.
I think that's about it that I want to talk about in this game. Let's move on to the waiver wire rankings. And at number 1 here, I have Zonovan Knight, and I was kind of surprised with how available that he was. He's available in about 50% of leagues on all platforms, Sleeper, Yahoo, ESPN. And we talked about him at length this week.
Yeah.
So I don't want to talk about him too much. But it basically comes down to this. He's looking like a pretty good running back, right? He was only behind Josh Jacobs in forced missed tackles over the last 2 weeks. He was 3rd in yards after contact per attempt over the last 2 weeks among running backs with at least 25 carries. Okay, so he's good. Michael Carter can be out again this week. He didn't practice at all last week. It's possible. So he would be a solid RB2 against Buffalo. But even if Carter is back, I won't be surprised if the Jets stick with him as their RB1 because I think they found something in him. So, it's possible that you grab Zonovan Knight right now and you potentially have an RB2 rest of season. Whether it's a mid RB2, a low end RB2, whatever. Like, I want that, right?
Yeah.
And then you compare it to James Cook, who I have here at number 2. Listen, I really love how the Bills, and I'm comparing these two, like why I have Zonovan at 1 and why I have Cook at 2 here.
Right.
And a lot of people would argue the other way around, but I love how the Bills used Cook last week, but we have to remind ourselves that this might not be like a backfield takeover, right? Like he's a must pick up, but I'm just comparing to the Zonovan Knight situation where Knight can potentially see 15 plus touches every week moving forward on a decent offense. I'm not sure we can say the same for Cook. And we probably know that he's not getting goal line carries. Both Singletary and Nyheim Hines had goal line snaps last week, and Cook didn't. But 20 opportunities for Cook on Thursday, right? And 15 for Singletary, 4 for Hines. So will there be 39, running back opportunities every week for the Bills? Like, I highly doubt that. So,
right.
We've been used to around 15 to 20 opportunities, total opportunities for running backs in this backfield for the Bills. Singletary still led the team in snaps last week, and it's possible that there's a 3-man backfield moving forward here. But I'm picking up Cook, and I'm hoping that the snaps, like if I'm picking up Cook and I have Cook, I'm obviously hoping that the snaps like continue to swing in his favor because he looked good. There's no doubt about that. It's just a matter of like, what do the Bills want to do? We haven't seen, this team really commit to one running back outside of Devin Singletary so far.
Yeah, with the Bills backfield, there's always liable to switch in one direction or the other. But James Cook, I think he definitely bought himself more touches in this game. At least a greater share of the pie, even if the pie isn't that big. I think he'll get some more touches out of that than he was before because he looked good, like you said. And this game was in control for the Bills most of the time. I know we're going all the way back to Thursday night between Buffalo and New England, but they were in control this whole time. So it makes sense that the running backs were going to get some more touches in this game. The Bills can be in control of other games too, but down the stretch, they have a couple tough matchups actually next week against the Jets. Should be interesting. That's 2 really good matchups as far as matchup quality go for the Jets. You talk about the Vikings one week and you follow that up with the Bills. They can prove themselves. But with James Cook, I think that he should be a good contributor. I do think Zonovan Knight is more locked in. We talked about, on the podcast yesterday and last week, even, about the waiver wire, that even once Michael Carter comes back, I think that he's definitely, head and shoulders above James Robinson or any Ty Johnson in that backfield for the work. So I think that he'll be getting at least half the work regardless of who's starting. And if Michael Carter's out, you could see a majority, 60, 70% of snaps. I wouldn't be surprised. And like you said, that's going to be huge, especially if you're trying to make your way into the playoffs. But definitely in line to get some more work and rest of the season. His value is up, and it's not going to go down as long as he doesn't get hurt.
Like, who would you be more comfortable? Like, let's say Michael Carter plays this week. Like, let's say we know he's going to play. Who would you be more comfortable starting? Zonovan Knight or James Cook?
Still Zonovan Knight. For me, it's pretty clear. I mean, James Cook, like, this was a 1 week that we saw where he actually got the workload and produced at a point where it's like, okay, now we have to pay attention to this. Where Zonovan Knight, he came in relief and he played very well. And then this week again, even in a backfield that he didn't get a whole lot of touches, he was competing with James Robinson and Ty Johnson, obviously still. He was able to get it done for you. And I think that's really good. He didn't score a touchdown either. So, like, there's still room to grow.
Yeah, I mean, he caught all 5 of his targets. These past 2 games, he was involved in the passing game as well. So that's very encouraging for him. And yeah, I mean, out of, like, and I mentioned this before when we talked about Zonovan Knight on last week's waiver wire show, where when you look at what he did in college, among all the running backs in this class who had, I think it was 25 targets or more, he had the highest catch percentage out of all of them. Doesn't necessarily mean that he'll do a lot after the catch, like someone like James Cook. But at least he'll be a reliable running back out of the backfield.
It's also worth noting that backup quarterbacks for the Jets, even though Mike White looks like he's going to be the starter moving forward, he's not really backup anymore. But guys like Mike White and Joe Flacco have been peppering the running backs, with targets. 100%. And they're perfectly capable of catching those passes. It's not like they're throwing to nobodies. Zonovan Knight's going to be able to get it done. I don't expect that to change, moving forward. That's a big part of their game on offense.
100%. Agreed. Good point. So I got Tyler Huntley number 3 here. Lamar Jackson being out, you might have lost your quarterback if you're in 2 quarterback league. Tyler Huntley probably moves all the way up to number 1. But if you're in a regular 1 quarterback league, you still got to pick up Huntley. I think we don't know how long Lamar's going to be out for. And, he's being labeled as week to week right now. But the Ravens have been one of the weirdest teams when it comes to injuries. And, like, they don't really let on, how long guys will be out, whether guys will be out, all of that. So, Harbaugh does a lot of that disguising all the time. So it's very possible Lamar's out for several weeks, 2 or 3 weeks potentially. So you want to pick up Tyler Huntley now because he'll probably be, a top 12 option this week. And then moving forward, I wouldn't be surprised if I have him in my top 8, right? So, like, it's getting to a point where he could potentially be a difference maker at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I mean, look no further than John Harbaugh's comments after the game, where he said, Lamar is day to day or week to week. It's like, what the heck does that mean? That's like an endless timetable. You don't know what it's going to be. That doesn't tell us anything more than what we, would have known, even if he didn't say that. Lamar Jackson, I'm expecting him to be out at least this week, definitely. And then next week, I think that there's a chance that he misses too. I wouldn't be surprised, especially if Tyler Huntley's playing well. They could let him play out the regular season. They're in position to get a playoff spot. If they want to have Lamar healthy for the playoffs, they might just kind of, take it easy bringing him back. So there's a chance he might miss more than a week or 2. He might not be back until the second round of playoffs or your championship, depending on how your playoffs are structured. So definitely pick up Tyler Huntley if you lost Lamar. You want to be, blowing your fab to make sure you get him, because otherwise there's not many other quarterbacks out there that's going to have the type of upside that Tyler Huntley has. And at this point in the season, sitting on the waiver wire, you can't let that go. Even if you don't need him, maybe just in case something would happen and you have an extra bench spot, definitely worth a pickup because he's going to be having some success. We've seen him do it before. He's filled in nicely for Lamar. And like I said, they don't change that offense at all. He's going to have the rushing offense moving. He's going to get the opportunities pretty close, if not exactly what Lamar Jackson was going to get. So he's a priority pickup.
And, if you look at the schedule, like, it's solid. He has Pittsburgh this week, which is a matchup I'm not worried about. Then Cleveland, solid matchup. Atlanta in week 16. That's a a matchup that he could definitely do well in. And then he had Pittsburgh at home at week 17. So this is all overall, I would be very happy with this schedule if I have Huntley and I know that he's going to be my quarterback.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. So I got DJ Chark here at number 4. He's somebody that I was, kind of eyeing before coming into this week because I like the usage that, we saw him, making his first, he had his first game back the week before. And, this past week, decent matchup, and he was able to come through. Now, this week, the Lions are going up against Minnesota. And we know how bad Minnesota is against wide receivers. Very juicy matchup. So, if you need a wide receiver, you need a flex play, go pick up DJ Chark and just plug him in. That's what I
Right.
would do. Just plug him in. Don't worry about it. Like, just shoot for the upside. You're trying to win this week. And you know what? He might continue to contribute. He caught a touchdown in week 12, right?
Yep.
But then his snaps went up last week. He has Minnesota. Then he has the Jets. So, not really too excited about that. Then he has Carolina. It's a decent matchup, but it might not be a matchup where the Lions have to throw a lot. So this is
Right.
really just kind of, you want to pick him up, just kind of play him this week. That's kind of how I'm treating this. But he's so high in my rankings here because I know a lot of people got to win their weeks this week, and DJ Chark is somebody who could put up a big week this week.
Yeah, 100%. And if you're sitting on a guy, I mean, obviously, Cortland Sutton's out, but maybe if you're sitting on a guy like Jerry Jeudy, do you think you'd pick up DJ Chark and maybe play him over Jerry Jeudy the way that the offense in the matchup, the offense has been playing in Denver? I think about DJ Chark,
That's a great question. Go ahead.
I think he's a worthwhile add. If you're sitting on a receiver, if you've been, holding on to a receiver who hasn't been producing for you at all these past few weeks, they've had quiet weeks and it doesn't look like the offense is getting better, especially like I said, if you're holding on to a guy like Jerry Jeudy, maybe I would pick up DJ Chark and throw him in for the upside because this matchup, like you said, is perfect. And it seems like receivers get it done every week. I think he's a more sure thing. If you need certain points, I don't care. Jeudy might have some upside, but in that offense, I'm not looking at, that to be better than what DJ Chark's going to get. Even if he only has a couple of targets, like we saw, he had 6 targets last week. He was able to get it done for you with 14.8 points, high, yards per catch. I'm picking up DJ Chark and hoping for the best that he could get done for this week. If you haven't had anything better at wide receiver, like if you're sitting on a third wide receiver spot and you're just starting nobodies, like I would throw DJ Chark in there and see what he can do.
Yeah, I hear you. It's close between Jeudy. That's a good one because Jeudy is going up against Kansas City. They're not good against slot wide receivers. Jeudy did okay last week against Marlon Humphrey, 65 yards against him. That's solid.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if you need safety, I'll probably go Jeudy here. But if you want upside, I think DJ Chark. There's no upside with Jerry Jeudy, but
No.
with DJ Chark, there definitely is upside. So I like that one. That's a good one. I wonder how close they're going to be in my rankings this week.
Yeah.
Then we got Cam Akers here. We talked about him yesterday. This backfield completely shifted in Cam Akers' favor. He had 2 touchdowns in this game, but I wouldn't expect that moving forward. This offense was actually moving the ball a little bit, which I wouldn't expect moving forward either. With John Wolford at quarterback, but 70% of snaps for Cam Akers in this game. It's not Kyren Williams' backfield anymore. Maybe it will become Kyren Williams' backfield again this week. Who knows? It might flip flop again. You have no idea. That's why Cam Akers. I mean, he's at 5, so it's pretty high, and he's really at 5 because this is a relatively weak waiver wire week. I would say it's kind of top heavy, right?
Yeah. I think it's really top heavy. Look at the running backs. There's not a whole lot there. I mean, Zonovan Knight, I think there's a good chance if you're in a competitive league that he's picked up, and James Cook might have been riding somebody's bench too. So he's someone that's definitely going to have been available coming off, the past few weeks. He hasn't done a whole lot. You could pick him up and hope that the momentum stays with him for this next week because the offense didn't look as bad with John Wolford at quarterback. I mean, with Bryce Perkins, it was pretty bad, but John Wolford is questionable, I think, now going into this week because he has a neck injury or something like that. So we'll see how that goes.
I think he's had the neck injury, if I'm not mistaken. Like it was something that he was already dealing with. So I'm not sure if this is a new injury. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't looked too much into it either. I mean, I kind of tuned out this Rams offense a couple weeks ago. But Cam Akers, you can't ignore 2 touchdowns on the ground. You have to think maybe he's liable for another one. And it wasn't against a bad team. Seattle is not a bad team. They kept it relatively competitive. So they're able to stay in games. Like I said, the offense still isn't inspiring at all. But if somebody's going to produce, it might be the running back. So if you're short on running backs, I think he could be a good pickup for you. He's not a priority pickup. Obviously, if Zonovan Knight and James Cook are there, you want to be, spending your fab up on those guys. But Cam Akers, he could be a consolation prize. It's not great, but he should be good enough for you this week. And if you're adding him for depth, I think that's good too. Because if he comes on the end of the season, you could have yourself some value there.
I have Jared Goff up here pretty high, but that's because again, he sees Minnesota this week.
Yep. Yeah, you can pretty much start anybody against Minnesota. It's not going to, fluctuate that much whether they're going to score a lot of points or not. I mean, Jared Goff, he's been getting it done kind of too. These past few weeks, he's looked a little bit better since that game on Thanksgiving. He hasn't been that bad. Granted, he did play the Jaguars last week, but in a game against Minnesota, the Lions are on the upswing. The offense looks good. Amon-Ra St. Brown's cooking. It seems like they're gonna be able to get it done, this week. They've been scoring a lot of points, and Jared Goff, he doesn't have to play perfect for them to score all those points. And if he could just be, somewhat efficient, he's going to have a nice floor for you. So if you need a quarterback and you're not going to get Tyler Huntley, he's pretty much the anti-Tyler Huntley, where Huntley has the upside. And Jared Goff, I think he has a pretty secure floor every week. So if you want just solid production, you need that to get in the playoffs, or you just want to ride out these next few weeks, start somebody, I think Jared Goff can get it done.
Yeah. I think he has like a 30-point ceiling this week. Like I think Jared Goff can absolutely kill it. I think this game is going to pop Jared Goff. He probably, I would say, like this game, if I had to guess what the over-under is going to be, like by Friday, it's probably going to be like 54 points.
Yeah,
like, I think
I wouldn't be surprised. And what do you think Precise is going to have it at? Precise is probably going to have it at like 59.
They're probably have it at 70.
Yeah.
You're going to have I think they had the Chiefs Bengals at like 65 or something like that.
It was 60 something.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then I got Corey Davis here at number 7. Like I mentioned, he had 10 targets this past week, but Mike White threw it like almost 60 times in this game. So, kind of have to understand that, he might not have such a high target share, but he is the clear wide receiver 2 on this offense right now. He's the guy that Mike White is going to go for behind Garrett Wilson. And going forward, Corey Davis can be, fantasy relevant. Remember, before he got hurt, he was the Jets wide receiver 2. He was actually fantasy relevant. We had him on our rosters, if you can remember, that he has potential wide receiver 3, weeks in him, in terms of like him, and also like in terms of ranking too. Like, we might have to rank him, in our top 36 or at least close to it. I'm not really worried about this Buffalo matchup, right? He has Detroit the week after that. He has Jacksonville the week after that. He has Seattle the week after that. So with this offense kind of coming on a little bit, this passing offense coming on a little bit. By the way, the Jets are passing it way over expectation, like over the past couple weeks, and all that change was the quarterback, right? Like a new quarterback, the Jets are like, okay, we're gonna pass the ball now. Thank you. That makes sense.
It's all that pent up, want to be passing, that they didn't do with Zach Wilson because they didn't trust him. And now Mike White, he's dealing, and he doesn't look bad. Mike White was the change that they needed for these guys to be relevant. Corey Davis, like you said earlier in the season, he was a wide receiver 2. And I'd argue he's in a better position right now at quarterback than he was then. Obviously it was Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson kind of mixing in there, but Mike White, I think, might be the better passer that he's had this season. And going into a matchup against Buffalo, it's not that scary. I mean, even though Buffalo's defense still is talented, I think that the Jets can move on anybody. I mean, they played against the Vikings, obviously, and they look good, but they also went against the Bears. They've been playing consistent. They have playmakers. And if Garrett Wilson's going to be drawing coverage, Corey Davis, he's a veteran, and that's what young quarterbacks look for. They always find the veteran receivers. That's a trend that we see. So I think Corey Davis is a good pickup. He can fill in and be a nice flex for you this week if he's sitting on your wire.
Agreed. Now, the Seahawks running back situation is very fluid right now, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Kenneth Walker's banged up, right? We don't know if he's going to play. He might play. You have DJ Dallas. He has a high ankle sprain, so most likely not going to play. He had to come back in this game with a high ankle sprain because Tony Jones also got hurt in that game. So
right.
Travis
at that
Homer
point
had a sprained knee coming into the game. So like all these running backs are banged up right now.
Yeah. At that point, I'm just going to put DK Metcalf in the backfield and see if that scares anybody. You know what I'm saying? I would play somebody else, but we'll see. With the Seahawks running backs, like you said, I think this could be any running back. The healthiest running back is going to be the top waiver priority at the end of the week. I mean, if you're looking to pick somebody up, you could roll the dice and just throw a dart at one of these guys. We'll see how healthy they are. I think that, you said DJ Dallas, he has a high ankle sprain.
DJ Dallas has a high ankle sprain, which is why I have Travis Homer here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't expect him to play if that's the case.
DJ Dallas, I would not expect him to play. Agreed.
Yeah.
Kenneth Walker, he might play. He has a jammed ankle, and Pete Carroll said that, I don't even know what that is, but Pete Carroll said that it's a weird injury, but he still has a chance of playing this week. So keep that in mind. If I'm going to pick up anybody, it's going to be Travis Homer because, he does have a sprained knee, so he might not play this week, but he did practice in a limited fashion on Friday before he was ruled out. So that is a little bit of a positive sign, I guess, but it's, now if none of these running backs play, Tony Jones would be up next. And, if you got Tony Jones in your lineup this week, you got some cojones. You got some serious cojones. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's pretty much it. Who else? Jarwin Thompson is on the Seahawks practice squad. Remember Darwin Thompson on the Chiefs last year?
Yeah.
He was everyone's darling. He was everybody's Isaiah Pacheco last week, except Isaiah Pacheco turned out to be good.
It's a new Chiefs running back every year. That's what it is.
We'll see. Yeah, I wonder who it's going to be next year. It's going to be. Yeah. I can't wait, and I can't wait to draft them in the first round and watch my team lose.
Yeah. With the Seahawks backfield, just the last word for that. I'm avoiding the Seahawks backfield at this point right now. Obviously, if you need to pick somebody up and you're in a bad spot, you can chase after whoever you want. But me, I'm just kind of keeping my hands off of that because I don't know who's starting. I'm not expecting too much from them. I imagine that the game plan is going to be geared more towards the pass. With they have Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf healthy. They have Geno Smith who's playing very well. There's no reason to hammer away in the run game if they have guys like Travis Homer. They might be really thin at running back. So I wouldn't expect that game plan to be geared towards the run game. I just temper expectations. I'm not expecting much from these backs at all this next week.
I'm a little bit of a Travis Homer stan, so I might start him if he's like
the running back version of Paris Campbell for you. He's waiting for him to get that opportunity.
I kind of like that. I was never as high on Travis Homer as I was on Paris Campbell, but that's a good comparison. I have Kadarius Toney at number 9 here. People have been frustrated with him and the fact that he hasn't been playing, and everything surrounding him with his hamstring injury and all that. But I have him here at number 9. Enough people have dropped him to where he's now available in more than 50% of leagues. I'm just gonna stash him. Like, I'm not looking to play him this week. I don't know if he's gonna play this week. No idea. Even if he does play, I don't want to start him unless he's getting full practices all week long, which he probably won't, given the fact that he didn't practice at all last week. This is a stash. Like, I probably won't be thinking about playing him for a couple weeks, but it's one of those situations where if he gets a couple limiteds in this week, he's out, and then next week he gets a couple full practices in, you might be able to start him in like week 16. And I still think there's upside here, and I still think that he's worth rostering right now. We still got 4 weeks left, So that's a lot of time. Okay, we have a whole month left for fantasy football. So I'm gonna bench him. I'm gonna grab him, throw him on my bench, and just see what happens. There's upside waiting to happen here. I'm not panicking with Kadarius Toney. I'm not completely off of him, and I understand why a lot of people would be. I'm not.
Yeah, so that's what it comes down to. I'd be surprised if Kadarius Toney is on the waiver wire. If he is, pick him up. Just bench him, stash him, whatever you need to do. Keep him on your roster because, like you said, you can't panic with Kadarius Toney. Obviously, there's problems. It looks like that hamstring injury is an issue still. And he definitely disappointed you if you started him in your lineup last week or the week before, whatever it was, when he was supposed to go off and he put up a donut. I think that definitely makes it difficult for anybody to trust him anymore the rest of the season, but you just have to wait for him to get healthy. And you have to remember that Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. And against the Bengals, it looked like the Chiefs were missing, talent at wide receiver. Obviously, Travis Kelce was there. He had a quieter game, but nobody was really making those plays that they needed in the receiving game. When they got down to the goal line and they scored that touchdown to go ahead before the Bengals came back and I think scored a touchdown, Mahomes had to jump over the line like jump man on 4th down to get that touchdown. Indeed, like if they have anybody on the outside, on the perimeter and a receiver to actually do some scoring for them, and actually make that play, you don't have to risk what's he getting paid? Like $500 million. You don't have to risk your $500 million quarterback, like you don't have to have him do that. If you can just get somebody open on the outside and he can throw it instead of, risking himself life and limb to get that touchdown. Obviously there were bigger problems than that outside of the game, but Kadarius Toney, that wide receiver room is still wide open, even though Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling have contributed, on and off this season. So definitely pick him up and stash him. I'd be surprised if he's on your waiver wire. Pick him up if he's there.
Jerick McKinnon, I got him at number 10 here. He did share the work, with Isaiah Pacheco on early downs. And then on top of that, he was a primary pass catcher. And then on top of that, he's getting snaps inside the 5 as well. So these roles will be interchangeable between these two guys. But the fact that, McKinnon is getting a little bit more weighted opportunity, getting targeted out of the backfield by Patrick Mahomes, he just has to be picked up. Like he should be on your roster. He's a PPR flex play. And then he has a chance of scoring any given week because of the fact that the Chiefs offense is good. So, he shouldn't be on waivers. I would say, especially if this continues to be a 2-man backfield.
Yeah, I like Jerick McKinnon, even though the running backs in this Chiefs offense haven't been fantastic for fantasy. Isaiah Pacheco has come on a little bit, but Jerick McKinnon is locked in for some receiving work every week. Like Isaiah Pacheco is the early down guy. He got a couple targets last week, I think, but Jerick McKinnon, regardless, is still the go-to passing down back, and they're going to continue to use him that way. And it doesn't seem like his floor is that bad with that receiving work. I think he got exclusively receiving work 2 weeks ago, and he actually put up a respectable performance for what he got. So he's someone that kind of gets overlooked. If he's sitting on your waiver wire, there's a good chance he might be because people just don't see the value in him. But he can be, a solid, contingency play for you every week. I'm not, starting him and expecting huge things. He scored last week, so it looked good. But, definitely don't let that type of value just sit on the waiver wire. I'd pick him up.
I agreed. Jameson Williams, I have him here at 11 just as like a stash. I'd rather stash Kadarius Toney. Jameson Williams, he had a few snaps last week, but nothing notable. Like he came in on random plays. Like he came in on plays where they were like kneeling down. So like
yeah,
I don't know if he's all the way ready. Like if DeAndre, like the way they handled the DeAndre Swift situation, we might not see Jameson Williams until 2024 playing a legit role.
right.
But
yeah.
No, I'm picking him up, stashing them. If you have the room, but not a priority ad for me. But
No.
a solid stash, I would say.
Not a priority ad. Jameson Williams, I'm not sure, even with Amon-Ra St. Brown playing the way he is, I'm not sure if we're going to see him get a whole lot of looks. He's demanding a lot of targets, Amon-Ra St. Brown is. So I'm not sure James Williams is going to be able to make that headway, especially with a healthy DJ Chark ahead of him. And like you said, DeAndre Swift is starting to, be a bigger contributor for the team overall and in the passing game.
You got Mike White at 12 here. If you need a quarterback, White has been getting it done. He's throwing the ball a lot. I'm not necessarily super worried about the Buffalo matchup if I need a streamer. The Buffalo defense, they've been all right. They haven't been a team that has been just like shutting people down. So,
yeah,
this is going to be a competitive game between these two teams, and he has weapons, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has a decent game. So, I might not have him as a top 12 option this week, but top 15 option this week. And depending on this is also really like if you need a quarterback the rest of the way and you can't pick up Huntley, you can't pick up Goff for this week, but you need somebody for later on. Like look at their schedule. Like we mentioned the schedule, for like Corey Davis before, and I'll mention it again. After Buffalo, they have Detroit, Jacksonville, and Seattle. So some matchups where Mike White can actually do his thing, assuming that he remains quarterback. I don't see any reason why they would move away from him at this point, despite Robert Saleh saying, yeah, we do. We want to get back to Mike White. I mean, we want to get back to Zach Wilson at some point this year. Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
Imagine Mike White finishes out the regular season and then Zach Wilson gets to start in the playoffs. Oh,
Jesus.
Could you imagine?
No, I can't. I that would never happen. Imagine. That would be like the worst decision of all time.
Would it? Because this is your second overall pick from last year. They're going to be like, well, let's give him another shot. Like,
in the playoffs, imagine
it would be a terrible decision. But you got to think, do they at least consider that? They're like, how demoralizing would that be? You're finally in a playoff game and they don't play you. Like, if they do that, that would tell me that they're just like off of Zach Wilson. They're going to move him, or he's going to just be out off the team next season. I'm not sure. Do you think the Jets go for a quarterback maybe next season? I don't think they're going to have the draft capital to. But do you think they might be in the market for another quarterback?
Yes. I think so. If I were them, I would be.
If Mike White wins a playoff game, do you think they would be?
I still think they would. I still think they would. I think they're going to bring in another quarterback and just make sure that, they kind of like do the due diligence, have Mike White there. I think they're going to re-sign him, but not to like some like starting quarterback type of money. I think he still signs backup type of money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got Greg Dulcich here at number 13. He had a decent week last week, but like we mentioned before, it's really hard to depend on the Broncos offense, but he's one of the few tight ends who is A, running a route on almost every dropback, and B, he's very talented. So that's really what it comes down to. So if you need a tight end, he's a solid pickup. And then you got Michael Gallup at number 14 here. We talked about him briefly yesterday. He caught 2 touchdowns in this game. And, he did a couple of games ago, him and Noah Brown were kind of sharing that wide receiver 2 spot. But over the last 2 weeks, he has completely overtaken Noah Brown as the wide receiver 2, because in 2 wide receiver sets, he's the only wide receiver on the field with CeeDee Lamb. So that's something worth noting. And it just so happens that over the last 2 weeks, he's had better games than before. So if you look at the schedule moving forward, he has Houston this week, decent matchup, Jacksonville, Philly, and Tennessee. So decent schedule the rest of the way. He'll probably be a flex play, not more than that, but he has a little bit of upside because of the offense.
Yeah, a little bit of upside because of the offense. It's when they throw a fade ball, which is pretty much a money ball, for any receiver, it's going to Michael Gallup. And he's been very good at that. We've seen that through his career. That's what he does. I think that he's a nice upside flex play every week. I wouldn't be comfortable starting him any higher than that. But as a flex, I think he's fantastic. I think he's a rough play at wide receiver 3, but he's an excellent flex. That's the way I kind of view him, because, you can have the upside there, but you're not going to be burned, if you start him at flex. He's going to have a couple catches a game at least, as long as he's healthy. The only thing that complicates this for me is if Dallas would sign Odell Beckham. Then maybe we start seeing him come off the field a little bit more. I'm not sure. It depends. We'll have to see what the status is of Odell. If they do sign him, we're not sure what his health is just yet. He might not even play till the playoffs. So maybe that worry is a little, ill-founded, but it would definitely complicate things. It would make it harder for me to trust Michael Gallup long term. Obviously, maybe next week I wouldn't worry about it, even if they signed him, but moving forward, just something to keep in mind.
Yeah. It's weird that Odell isn't working out for teams. That's the weird part
what
about
I'm talking
it
about with the health situation.
Yeah.
Like that is a little odd.
I have Tony Jones here at 15 because of what I mentioned earlier, that if DJ Dallas can't play, which I don't think he will play because of that high ankle sprain. If Travis Homer is also out with that knee sprain, and if Kenneth Walker's out as well, with the jammed ankle, then Tony Jones will be next up. So
yeah,
if you're shooting that straw, if you're trying to figure out like who am I playing in this flex, you're in a deep league, pick up Tony Jones, see what happens this week. And then I got Alexander Madison at 16, just as a handcuff. That's it. Like, he's one of the best handcuffs available on a lot of waiver wires. Dalvin Cook hasn't gotten hurt in a long time, so that's why Madison's on the waiver wire, because people were like, yo, I've been holding on to this guy for like 10 weeks. Dalvin Cook has been fine. I'm going to drop him. So I want him. I want to stash him, keep him on my bench. You never know. Because God forbid Dalvin Cook gets hurt, Alexander Madison's going to be a league winner. That's it.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
100%. And Madison, he actually scored a touchdown last week, right?
Yeah,
against the Jets, and he had that celebration. That was pretty funny. But
yeah, that was funny. Yeah, he did like the soccer twerk,
right?
the fake hamstring injury and the soccer twerk. Yeah.
No, that was funny.
Solid.
But
solid.
We say the same thing about Alexander Madison on here every week. So it's like no need to beat a dead horse. It's just pick him up if he's on the waiver wire. He's in perfect handcuff. If anything would happen to Dalvin Cook down the stretch, you're gonna have a big power shift.
Yeah, you guys know what it is with Madison. And then Jordan Mason, I have him here at 17. He was the guy behind Christian McCaffrey. It was not Tyrion Davis-Price. So, there's not a lot of running backs left in this backfield. Okay.
No.
Elijah Mitchell's gone. Jeff Wilson's gone. It's Christian McCaffrey. God forbid he gets hurt. Jordan Mason will be the next guy up. We know this offense, can support running backs. Jordan Mason has looked good in his limited opportunities over the last 2 weeks. And with more volume, he can get it done. So pick him up. He's a stash.
Yeah. I don't think he's anything more than a stash. He doesn't have any really standalone value for me.
No standalone value. No standalone value. At least if they continue to use Christian McCaffrey the way they used him on Sunday.
You cross your fingers.
Hopefully.
Because that's how they should use him with Brock Purdy at quarterback.
Trust me. I'm crossing my fingers. Mack Hollins at 18. He's a guy that, you kind of just plug in, and he's been solid. Like, he hasn't gotten, his floor hasn't been super low, 11 points, 16 points, 8.5 points over the last 3 weeks in PPR, 9 targets, 2 of the last 3 weeks. He sees the Rams this week, which is a pretty good matchup. So I'm fine throwing him as a flex play, and somebody, who Carr has been looking for lately.
Yeah, and he's been looking for him all season. Obviously he's kind of hurting because Devontae Adams is just having such a huge season. But in those games where, Devontae Adams is a little bit quieter, you see that's where the targets are going when Devontae Adams doesn't have that huge game. It's going to Mack Hollins. So he's liable to be, a low-end wide receiver too every week. It doesn't always happen. More often than not, it's, obviously Devontae Adams getting the work, but that type of upside, you can start that. There's nothing that there's no reason that you can't start that. I would be comfortable starting him, even though he hasn't had fantastic output, throughout the season. Those games where he has, that good target share, he gets it done. So you can start Mack Hollins, and I'd be surprised if he's on the waiver wire. If he is, you could pick him up. He's an underrated ad at this point. If you need somebody to fill in for somebody that's on bye, it feels weird having guys on bye week 14, and there's actually a bunch of teams.
I know, man. So many teams.
Yeah, there's a bunch. So this is like the worst case scenario if you're trying to make a playoff push. But if you need somebody to push you in, Mack Hollins, he's pretty safe. I would sleep well. He wouldn't be the reason I'm up at night if I had to start him in place of one of my starters.
Yeah, it's weird to say the Rams is a good matchup, but it is. They haven't been great against perimeter wide receivers this year.
The game's going to be competitive, I think. At least competitive, because the Raiders.
Derek Carr will make it. Yeah, Derek Carr will make it competitive because he always stoops low to the competition.
Yeah, the Raiders have looked good, but this is the Raiders we're talking about. And just 2-3 weeks ago, they were 2-7. So they're 5-7 now. Do they maybe make a playoff run? Maybe it's in the cards. We'll see. They'll be very Raiders of them to do that, but we'll have to see.
That's true. I got Isaiah McKenzie here at 19. Going up against the Jets this week. A little bit of a tough matchup, but the Jets have been a little bit vulnerable to slot wide receivers. The first time these guys played against each other, McKenzie did not have a good game, but if I'm not mistaken, McKenzie didn't even play that much. The difference this time around, let's see, McKenzie last time, 66% of snaps, so nothing too crazy, but the route participation over the last 2 weeks has been way higher than it has before. So the first time they played against the Jets, he didn't have that really crazy route participation, that high route participation, and he will this week. So that's why I think McKenzie is a solid pickup in PPR leagues. You kind of want to be attached to the Bills offense. And, one of the reasons why I like McKenzie early on in the year is because of that chance that, he sees, 70, 75%, 80% route participation with Josh Allen, and any receiver who's getting that, especially out of the slot. I want that. And now he's kind of getting that a little bit more over the past 2 weeks. So I'm cool with McKenzie. He might have had a bigger game last week, if he didn't get hurt early in that third quarter. And he already had 5 catches early in that third quarter. He could have had more. So something to keep in mind going into this week.
Yeah, the reason we were, you were talking about was because you thought about him maybe having the Cole Beasley role, the slot receiver from Josh Allen. He could do that, and he still can. I think Isaiah McKenzie might be just a bit more talented than Cole Beasley. Obviously, Cole Beasley can run routes, but I think Isaiah McKenzie has, more speed. He's more of a burner. He could do more with the ball once it's in his hands than Cole Beasley did. But if he can get to that type of role, which it looks like he's kind of trending that direction, he's definitely, moved up in the offense as far as them wanting to use him. They definitely want to use him a little bit more. So you can pick him up. He's fine. I think the upside is there because he has boom and bust weeks. He's not necessarily Gabe Davis, but, he'll get it done for you. I think his floor might be a little bit safer, and that might just be maybe not. I don't know. We'll have to see. But it's a good offense. He's a receiver there. He's talented. Josh Allen's quarterback. Enough said. Pick him up.
At this point, it's just like you kind of shooting at straws. You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows? And then I got Nico Collins here at number 20 as the last one. He had 11 targets this past week without Brandon Cooks in the lineup. Brandon Cooks, like, it's one of those situations where, like, the Texans just shut him down. Like, he was number one, like, he didn't want to be there, right? He's dealing with a little bit of an injury. I have a feeling that they might just shut down Brandon Cooks. It's very possible. Nico Collins, I don't even think Cooks is that hurt. Like, if this was a competitive team, I don't think Cooks would be out of this game. Like, I think he would have been playing this entire time. So he's been in and out the lineup. I think Nico Collins could potentially be the target leader over the next several weeks. Someone to pick up. I'm not super excited about it. I don't even think he has a high floor. But the fact that, you got to pay attention when somebody gets 11 targets. He did have a touchdown last week. I would not start him against Dallas, personally. No. Like, I would not. But they have Kansas City in week 15, Tennessee in week 16, and then Jacksonville in week 17. So, good playoff matchup. And I'm only picking him up in case Cooks does get shut down. So this is a pickup that, you're in a deep league and you'll pick up Collins. And that's about it.
Yeah.
I'm not really comfortable starting Collins if Cooks is active.
Something to note, though, about, Nico Collins. He's had 11 targets, 10 targets last week, 9 with targets the week before that, 7 and 10. They've been playing from seriously behind in a lot of those games these past 2 weeks, especially. And he makes up a lot. He gets a lot of targets in garbage time, and that could be worth something. I mean, they're playing against Dallas, and Dallas could, go up early. And I don't want to get ahead of myself because I'm a Cowboys fan. I don't want to jinx them, but they could get up early and Nico Collins could just have that garbage time, touchdown. That would make him relevant on the week, and he's getting those targets anyway. Obviously, 11 targets last week. He only had 3 catches, so it's not fantastic, but he's getting enough volume where it's kind of forcing him to be relevant, and that's okay.
I'm going to be choosing the whatever the spread is in this game. I'm going to be choosing the Texans. This is like the ultimate trap game ever. Like it's like one of the best teams in the league and the worst teams. Like this spread is going to be ridiculous. I'm choosing the Texans.
If you want to talk about the point differential on these teams, Dallas leads the league at plus 127, and the Texans are minus 99, and that's the worst in the league. So
I do see the early spread is 14.5.
That's not even that bad. I thought earlier this season I saw somewhere. I had an uncle. He was betting, and he had the Bills 20.5 against the Steelers.
I remember that. And this I think the Steelers
No, they didn't cover.
They didn't?
No, they didn't. No. He had the Steelers. He's like, this is a Mike Tomlin team. This they can't lose by 20, and they did.
That would literally be my rationale as well.
Yeah. I'm surprised the line isn't the spread isn't any bigger.
It might get a little bit bigger. I mean, I think it's probably in Texas. That's probably why. If it was in Dallas, it would be a lot higher because it's in Dallas.
I think it is in Dallas, no?
It's in Dallas. Yeah, it's in Dallas.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's confusing. Maybe it's because we saw Dallas kind of play with their food.
Did you hear what I just said? I said it's in Texas. Like, no shit. It's going to be in Texas.
It's the Battle of Texas. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like Texas? I don't know. But yeah, with Dallas, that's interesting. I'm not sure why that would be. And I don't want to talk up, like I said, my team too much, but I don't know. That seems a little odd. I might take, Dallas to cover in that one if it's only 2 touchdowns. Like, come on.
Maybe. Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for us, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We're going to be going over our quarterback rankings and our running back rankings for week 14. Big week. Make sure that you stay tuned this week. Listen, even if you're out of it, I don't know if you're listening to it, if you're out of it or if you're going to be out of it. I think it makes sense to keep paying attention because you might not have paid attention to Amon-Ra St. Brown last year and you wouldn't have drafted him this year, right? Like a lot of things happen towards the end of the year where, things matter. You got to pay attention and it'll give you the upper hand going into 2023. Okay.
See what he did there?
But yeah, you're right. I didn't even notice that. Just kidding. But yeah, guys, good luck this week. Good luck in your waiver wire claims and we'll be back tomorrow and we'll talk to you guys soon. Take it easy. See ya.